I'm recording now. Hello. Um, Welcome. Uh, we're gonna be reading Kyoshi again, obviously. Um, just to let you guys know, I might be pausing more than usual. Uh, my, I'm pretty sure I have this type of eczema on my fingers, and I think because of the heat, it's starting to trigger up again. So my fingers feel so like super hot and also pretty itchy. So I'm not trying to itch them or anything. They also are starting to develop the little like bumps on your skin. I've t- a testament to how 2020 is not anyone's year, especially mine. Uh, because like I had this the same thing happened to me, and it was like much worse because I was popping these bubbles, these like water bubbles that I shouldn't have, and they would just make my fingers like swell up and dry and itch more, which it's not a good idea. And they say to sometimes to treat, like I read it up online, and it's like, oh, one of the soothing thing, well, not soothing, but like one of the things you can do to help relieve the stress is or relieve the itch is to drain the water bubbles. And I'm just like, no, it's not a good idea. It's just gonna make it worse. Um, but yeah, I'm starting to develop those little bubbles, and I'm not ruptured any yet. Pretty sure I'm not gonna. Um, I have uh, a bag of ice right now, and I'm just like uh, just massaging in between my fingers because that's where they usually are, the bumps, and that's where the swelling starts and stuff. So, uh, yeah, I had that happen to me like I think late 2014, early 2015, and then 2015 was just really bad. I was suffering a lot because I kept on popping the little bubbles, and it just got worse. And then it stopped for whatever reason. Yeah, it just completely stopped. Um, and now it's coming back again. I mean, there have been times over the years, like maybe once or twice during that span, maybe 3 times or 4 times, but nothing more than that. That they have swelled up, but now it's just like it's almost all of my fingers, or at least the three middle, the ring, the middle, and my index that are being hit the most on both of my hands. And thank God, this condition is called dihydrotic, dihydrotic, di. It's di. Hold on, I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Okay, dihydrotic eczema. And it's not fun. And this is what I believe I have because I have like most of like the symptoms and the images of what you see or what happened. Though I don't get them on my feet. or on the palms of my hands. It's just my fingers, which I am so thankful, because that would really suck. But they are really bothersome. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to warn you about. Let me see. I spent like what 5 minutes talking about myself. Exactly, 5 minutes talking about myself. Okay, but yes, we're gonna get to Kyoshi. I should take this thing off, but it just makes it. I put, because the bag of ice, it was a bag of water, and then I put it in the freezer, and then it just molded weird. I put some pantyhose. I cut some pantyhose and put it around so it wouldn't be too cold. But now I'm just like, I want to feel the full force of the cold. Okay. So let me just do this. Okay. And then let me do these. Oh yeah, what fell yesterday? That fell yesterday. Just trying to figure out what fell yesterday. You guys fell yesterday. Okay. Alright. But yes, last we left off, turns out Kyoshi loves Rangi and they kissed. That was very exciting. They also met up with a mob boss who's just like, I want you to rescue my friend. He's in a prison cell, blah 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 blah. You know. Okay. Sorry. If you hear any if you hear that, I know Chandler, you probably no, you can't hear it. But if you guys hear that, that's just me playing with the bag of water, ice. Well, bag of ice. That will be water in a few hours. Okay. So let me see. Let me see how much I want to read. So there's that one, which is okay. All right. I think I know where I want to read to, but we will see. Okay. So this next chapter, hold on. For anything else, I need to plug in my laptop. All right. There we go. So now we are on to the next chapter, and it is called oh no, I'm sorry. I'm doing another thing. Okay, come on, bastard. Okay. There we go. Now I'm all set. Okay. So this chapter is called The Beast. Okay. I have like my pillow right in front of the laptop, And every time I have it in front of the laptop, and because I want to I'm propping up the book on it, and like I can't see if it's like detecting my voice on the OBS, but obviously it is because I'm watching it right now, and like the pillow's not gonna do anything. I'm just crazy, I guess. Okay, but yes, the next chapter is called The Beast. The Beast. The morning sunrise had never been so warm. Kyoshi had slept better on the hard-packed shore of the lake, without a bedroll, than she had any of the nights spent camping between Chameleon Bay and Fujian. Perhaps it was because she had her own fire now. She didn't have to share it with anyone else. Okay. Rangi murmured into the base of her neck, a soft thrumming sensation. A shadow loomed over them both. Her own fire. Wink. I know. I know. I see what the author did. But yes, Rangi murmured into the base of her neck, a soft thrumming sensation. A shadow loomed over them both. Kyoshi blinked until she saw a pair of leather boots next to her head. Karima squatted down closer to their level, her hands on her knees and her chin in her hands. Have a nice night, the waterbender said, batting her eyelashes. She grinned wider than the open sky. Kyoshi rose to her elbows. Rangi slid off her chest and thumped her head on the ground, startling awake. The leg she had thrown across Kyoshi's body reluctantly unwound itself. Must have been nice, Karima said, barely able to contain her laughter. Sleeping under the stars, just two friends, having a close, private moment of friendship. Kyoshi rubbed the drowsiness out of her face. She could leap to her feet and deny everything. She had no idea what would happen if she and Rangi kept pulling on this thread together. Few people in the Earth Kingdom would react anywhere near, and few people in the Earth Kingdom would react any would re- few people would react in the Earth Kingdom would react anywhere near as well as Karima. But ever since that day in Yokoya, when she'd learned her fate, while her hands were still dusted with white flour, her life had been an endless refusal, full of secrets unhappily kept to their destructive ends. She was sick of denying herself. Not this time. This time would be different. A steady thought. The drum beat in her hand. The drum beat in her head and heart let her know the truth. She would never back down from how she felt about Rangi. Rangi caught her gaze and smiled, making a slight, barely there nod. Ready if you are, signal. She was, and they were. She is my girlfriend! Basically what she's gonna say. It's exactly what it looks like, Kyoshi said. You have a problem? Karima shrugged and waved her fingers, dipping into a moment of quiet seriousness. I'm not the type to give you grief over whom you love, she said. Her mirth returned immediately. I am, however, going to give you tremendous amounts of grief about romancing within your own brotherhood. That's like doing laundry in the outhouse. It never gets clean. Kyoshi got up. First off, we knew each other before we met you. Second, My parents founded this stupid gang, and they were obviously a pair. Good to see you carrying on the family tradition, Karima said. Jessa and Hark were mad about each other. Nothing could douse the moment of Kyo. Nothing could douse the moment for Kyoshi like a reminder of her parents. She wondered if they still kissed, made eyes, whispered jokes after they dropped her in Nokia. Perhaps unburdening themselves had made their relationship all the sweeter. She didn't want to ask. The darkness of her abandonment must have boiled to her surface as the three of them trudged uphill, back toward town, because Rangi ran the back of her nails down Kyoshi's hand, a playful and teasing distraction that held more meaning now than 100 volumes of history. Kyoshi nearly tripped and fell on her face. Damn, Kyoshi cheesin'. She cheesin' over here. Alright. If this was what being true to herself felt like, she could never go back. Her heart was nestled somewhere above her in the nearest cloud. She wanted to scoop up Rangi in her arms and run, slipping higher and higher, using that technique she still had to learn until they found it. Kyoshi was so happy that Hujiang itself looked prettier in a new light. Splotches of color caught her eye that weren't visible in the torchlight of the previous evening. Blues and reds from beyond the Earth Kingdom. The longhouses she could see now, the longhouses she could see now had individual touches like carved shrine alcoves and Fire Nation rugs hung over doors. It reminded her of the way ships would get personalities imprinted on them by their sailors. Dust had yet to be kicked up by the day's business, and the air was cleaner, easier to breathe without the dingy haze. They strolled through town. When was the last time Kyoshi had a stroll? Had she ever? And sidestepped the strewn bodies of men who slept off hangovers and beatings or both. Or beatings or both. Karima led them to one of the larger establishments, where she ducked through a door with one of its posts destroyed, like someone had been thrown out, but not very accurately. Yeah, Karima led them to one of the larger establishments where she ducked through a door with one of its posts destroyed, like someone had been thrown out, but not very accurately. She returned moments later, bending a large blob of water that she had to have found inside. It rolled down the steps like a slug. Yeah, it rolled down the steps like a slug. Wong floated inside the reverse bubble. Yeah, Wong floated inside the reverse bubble, his head poking out of the top. He snored comfortably. Wake up! Karima said. Karima shouted. With a flick of her arms, the water froze. The big man jolted awake from the cold. He resembled a small iceberg with his face poking out of the summit. Ugh, leave me in this. Ugh, leave me in this for a while, he said, bleary-eyed. Krema liquefied the water again, dropping him to his feet and bent it away from his body, leaving him as dry as a bone. She hurled the water back inside the building, where it landed with a giant splash. Someone inside screamed and sputtered. Someone inside screamed and sputtered. We've had enough of this town, she said. Then she grinned at Kyoshi and Rengi without any attempt to hide the meaning in her stare. Or at least I have. Wong didn't get the chance to interpret her her stage gestures. A loud crashing noise from somewhere near the bazaar punctured the silence of the morning. It sounded like a house might have collapsed. Birds rose into the sky, fluttering in distress. Rengi frowned and leaned her ear towards the disturbance. Was that a landslide? I don't know, Krema said cautiously, but the birds have the right idea. Now the clamor of men shouting in horror could be heard over the roof lines. Never wait to find out what the trouble is. Never wait to find out what the trouble is, Wong said, already jogging away from the source. By then, you're already too close. If that was an ancient wisdom, it should have been. They followed him briskly back toward the inn. Hopefully, Lek and Gu were both there, ready to fly. Judging by how fast the ruckus was catching up, they wouldn't have time to search the town on Peng Peng. A horrendous snorting, choking sound rolled through the streets. Back in her mansion days, Kyoshi had once seen an ambassador bring a pet poodle monkey that was so inbred in the name of cuteness that it had trouble breathing through its miniaturized snout. That was what she heard now, on a scale 1,000 times larger. The exhortations of a creature that could never get its fill of air. Two men ran screaming out of a longhouse, right on their heels. An instant later, the building front exploded, planks and beams torn to shreds by a dark, weary mass that writhed with fury. A rope or a whip flung out with the speed of a cable under tension, and lashed the men across the back. They fell to the ground, skidding on their faces, momentum making their legs scorpion over their heads. Choi's gills! Choi's gills! Karima shouted. What is that thing? Behind them was a beast that Kyoshi had never seen the likes of before. A black and brown four-legged monstrosity that stood higher at the shoulder than some of the huts. It managed to be hulking with muscle and yet lysome. It managed to be hulking with muscle, yet lysome as a serpent at the same time. Claws as long and sharp as sickle blades reaped at the ground, opening damp wounds under the dusty surface. But the most hideous part of the creature was its dark void of a face. The furry, elongated skull had no eyes, only a flowering pink snout that... Oh! It's the Shirshas! I'm pretty sure it's the Shirshas. Yeah, Yeah, the smelly creatures. The creatures that can smell a lot. Alright. Yeah, the furry, elongated skull had no eyes, only a flowering pink snout that wriggled with its own fleshly protuberances. Hold on. Protuberance. Okay. Only a flowering snout, only a flowering pink snout that wriggled in its own fleshy protuberances. It was as if a parasite from another world had attached itself to the nose of an earthly beast and taken control over the entire animal. Two large dark holes, nostrils, sucked air in all directions until they pointed straight at Kyoshi. Ah, shit. She backed away slowly, ineffectually surprised. Yeah, she backed away slowly, ineffectually, surprised she could manage that. The nausea of terror chained her, robbed her of instinctual instinct. Her skin felt wet and cold. Again, was the only thought running through her mind. Again, Jianzu had loosed a nightmare on her, an inhuman specter that would drag her away into the darkness, screaming. It had to be him. There was no one else who could have scraped the depths of her fear like this. Somehow she knew in her bones that it was he who haunted her with this living aberration. A wall of earth shot up between her and the animal. She hadn't bent it. What are you doing? Wong roared as he followed through on his attack. Either fight or run. Don't stand there where we can't help you. The monster clambered down over the wall he made with ease, its claws letting it climb as fast as it ran. Yeah, the monster clambered over the wall he made with ease, its claws letting it climb as fast as it ran. Kramer pulled some water from a nearby trough and smashed at the beast's shoulders, trying to knock it off balance. Ranky kicked low sheets of flame at the places it tried to land its forepaws, reasoning that it was as effective to break an animal's root as it was a normal opponent. That's right, Kyoshi thought. I'm not alone this time. The street was wide enough to accommodate her earthbending weakness. She knifed in the air in front of her, and the entire surface of the road began to grind and shift. A fissure opened, and one of the animal's paws fell in. If she could close the gap fast enough, she could put it by the monster, rather than avoid the jaws of her trap, dove headfirst into the rift. Its entire body disappeared below ground, leaving a pile of castings behind. This thing can burrow? Krema sounded more aggrieved than afraid, like an experienced gambler discovering the table they joined was blatantly rigged against them. Kyoshi felt vibrations beneath her. It was not possible not to, with a creature that size, but they were indistinct and directionless. Not a help in this situation. Spread out, Rangi said, eyeing the ground. Shouldn't we stay close? Kyoshi said. No, Rangi said. Then it'll get more than one of us in a single bite. Kyoshi may have been feeling warm with newfound camaraderie for her gang, but no one had told Wong and Karima. After hearing Rangi, they immediately leaped onto the roof of the nearest house, elements trailing below the soles of their feet, leaving her and Kyoshi down below. The soil loosened around them, a perfect circle caving in. Rangi tackled Kyoshi out of the center of the formation, boosting herself sideways with flame jets from her feet. They landed hard on their sides, shoulders bruising. The creature burst through the surface, rearing toward the sky, the sound giving birth to a shape of death that blacked out the sun above. There was a zipping sound, and then a thud. The animal screamed, and its claws came down short. Of Kyoshi and Rangi's bodies. It shook its head furiously. Another impact, but this time Kyoshi saw it. A smooth, fist-sized stone had struck the beast hard on the tip of its sensitive nose, sending it reeling. She looked up and made out Lek's silhouette on the roof of their inn, the sun behind him shrouding his face. Move? Move! Maybe? He shouted. A hail of perfectly aimed stones gave him cover, each missile landing uncannily on the spot that the animal seemed to feel pain. No matter how much it thrashed about, it backed away, trying to hide its nose. As Kyoshi and Rangi fled toward Lek, several arrows struck it in the hindquarters. It turned to face the new threat. The Daofei had gotten over their surprise and were now mobbing the beast, thrusting spears at it and pricking its fur with short bows. They sought the glory of bringing it down. The animal lashed out with its tongue, sending a row of men falling to the ground. But more swordsmen turned hunters stepped over their limp bodies to replace them. Kyoshi didn't care to understand the bizarre scene playing before her. She and the rest of the group ran for the hills. They arrived at Ping Ping's cave in the mountainside winded, their legs and lungs burning. To find Lao Gu feeding the bison a pile of cabbages. Fuck, dude. What did you say that to? I didn't hear the notification when you said that. Stupid laptop. Oh shit. Oops. I guess no, I didn't hear that. Okay. They arrived at Peng Peng's cave in the mountainside, winded, their legs and lungs burning, to find Lao Gu feeding the bison a pile of cabbages. He tossed them one at a time high in the air for Peng Peng to catch between her broad, flat teeth. There was probably no use asking him how he'd acquired the produce. A lot of help you were, Lek shouted. He was assuming, like Kyoshi was at this point, that Laogu was completely aware of what transpired. The old man gave him a pitying look. Fighting a Shirshu? That's just a bad investment of effort. I left as soon as I felt it coming. You knew what that abomination was? Krema said. It's a legendary subterranean beast that hunts by scent, he explained dismissively, like they would have known this if they'd paid better attention to his ramblings. Supposedly, it can track its quarry across stone, water, earth. Supposedly, it can track its quarry across stone, water, dirt, thin air. In the old days, Earth Kings would use them to execute their political enemies. For the traitor, let them be hounded by Shirshu until they drop where they stand, far from their homes and the bones of their ancestors. Laogu fed Ping Ping another cabbage, or at least that's how the saying went. Shirshu haven't been seen in the wild for at least a generation, so I assume this one was being used to hunt a fugitive too, same as in the days of yore. Kyoshi felt Lek's gaze boring into her. It was going for you, he said. I could see it from the roof of the inn. It was sniffing out your scent. You brought it here. She hesitated. Had she been as smooth as you, she could have come up with a convincing denial on the spot. Before she could say anything, she was preempted by the metallic clanking of blades rattling in their scabbards. They leaned over the cave ledge to see a party of swordsmen down below. At the back of the group, exhorting them onward, was Brother Y. Mox. God damn it. That fucking guy. Mox Inquisitor looked like he wished to speak with whomever he was searching for. Very much. I can explain, Kyoshi said quickly. But maybe once we're in the air? They were silent in unanimous agreement as they scrambled onto Peng Peng. The truth took a back seat to survival. Oh shit. And that is the end of that chapter. And then this is from the title, it's going to be a pretty interesting chapter. Then the next chapter is called The Avatar's Masters. Alright. The Avatar's Masters. Peng Peng graced the skies over the plains of Ba-Sing-Se, the impenetrable city. Watched them pass like a silent century of monolithic brown walls, a blank face devoid of features. Kyoshi watched the capital sail by. Somewhere in the center of those titanic fortifications was the Earth King, nominally the most powerful person on the continent, with armies to command and the wealth of the world at his disposal. Though she had never dug deep into history lessons, she knew that the records were full of instances where avatars and Earth Kings came to each other's aid. And yet she couldn't go ask him for help. There were no means for a peasant to approach the Earth King that wouldn't result in immediate refusal or capture or death. Moreover, courts and cities were Jianzu's realm. He'd spent decades cultivating influence among the bureaucrats of Ba-Sing-Se. Barging in there would be no better than surrendering to Governor Deng back in Chameleon Bay. She looked at her parents' gang. She looked at her parents' gang. These were the only people she could trust, as sad as that was. Out there was a city that essentially belonged to her enemy. Her allies could fit on the back of a single bison. And they weren't happy with her right now. All right, spill it. Krama snapped. Who is this man you're feuding with? You said he was a rich and powerful sage. Which one exactly? Tell us the truth. Kyoshi stared at the saddle before. Kyoshi stared at the saddle floor. Before she'd felt within her rights, keeping his name a secret, but the decision seemed completely foolish in retrospect. Shihansu, Kyoshi said weakly. Shihansu, the companion of Karuk. The architect? Lagu said, rubbing his chin. You aim high, my dear. I am impressed. The rest of them were not as amused. Their jaws dropped in chorus. Jianzu, the gravedigger? Lek yelled. You picked a fight with the gravedigger? I didn't pick the fight, Kyoshi protested. I wasn't lying when I said he killed 2 people I loved. Oh no, we believe that, Karima shouted. We can believe that plenty. That man has a higher body count than Sextapox. And you ticked him off so badly that he sent a beast out of myth to track you all the way to Taipa Mountains? Wong said with a sigh. We might as well jump off Peng Peng right now and save ourselves the trouble. Thanks a lot, you numbskull, Lex said. We had a chance of surviving Mach, but if the butcher of Zulu Pass wants you feeding the worms, then it's only a matter of time before he puts you and us below ground. So Kyoshi wasn't the only one terrified of him. It was a small comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. It made her feel like she was standing on firmer footing. Outlaws were perhaps the one group who would understand how brutal and dangerous Jianzu really was. She closed her eyes. She hadn't known these people for very long, but to her surprise, more than anyone's, she would have felt intolerably guilty if Jianzu's efforts to capture her caused them any grievous harm. They deserved not to be swindled. The way she'd put it. They were owed the full story. He's not trying to kill me, Kyoshi said. He doesn't want me dead. Well, that would be new for him, Karima said. How are you so privy to his inner thoughts and goals? Because she took a deep breath to steady herself. I am the Avatar. It was the first time she'd ever knowingly said the truth out loud. Somehow she'd managed to avoid speaking those 3 specific words in that specific order to Rangi the night they fled Yokoya in the drenching rain. Rangi had already known the Avatar was neither her or Yoon. So context had sufficed. Oh, let me say that again. I said that wrong. Rangi had already known that the Avatar was either her or Yoon, so context had sufficed. Kyoshi's confession hung in the air, as visible as smoke. She waited for the rest of them to recover from the blow that had staggered Rangi, Helsing, and everyone else who belonged to the small circle of knowledge. Yeah, yeah, she waited for the rest of them to recover from the blow that had staggered Rangi, Kelsang, and everyone else that belonged to the small circle of knowledge at one point in time or another. They might have needed a moment to recalibrate their view of the world. Huh, Lex said. Huh, huh. Or maybe they just laughed in her face. Lex rolled back Lex rolled back on the floor of the saddle, finding her moment of ultimate honor. Hold on. Okay, there we go. I was reading weird. Lex rolled back on Lex rolled back on the floor of the saddle, uh, finding her moment finding her moment of ultimate honesty a good joke, a relief from his jangled nerves. You? The Avatar? Man, I've heard some whoppers, but that might be the best yet. I know I let you gloss over a bunch of the oaths, Karima said to her, but at least five of them are about never lying to your sworn family. She is the Avatar, Ranky said. Why do you think she has a Fire Nation bodyguard? Don't know, Wong said with a shrug. He pointed his thumb at Karima. Why do you think we got her? The waterbender gave him a dirty look before continuing. Look, you can believe in your weird little two-person cult all you want. Yeah, look, you can believe in your weird little two-person cult all you want, she said to Kyoshi. Just tell us what you stole from the gravedigger. You wouldn't be the first servant who bungled a theft and had to flee from their angry boss. Kyoshi couldn't believe it. She'd had it all wrong. She thought that her avatarhood was the final secret, a gilded treasure that needed to be kept in a series of locked chests until the exact right moment. It turned out that without proof, the information was worth less than a paper. It turned out that without proof, the information was worth less than the paper it was written on. She squeezed out one of her fans from her belt. She squeezed one of the fans in her belt out of frustration. Do you even do you even bend all four elements? Juan said. Do you? I firebent once, she said, realizing how stupid she sounded as she said it. Do you even bend, bro? Do you even lift? Yeah. Uh-huh. I firebite once, she said, realizing how stupid she sounded as she said it. Under duress, it came out of my mouth like dragon's breath. She thought about trying to do a fire fist, but it felt like a bad idea, given the lack of space and how badly her last one went. Yeah, I once got food poisoning from dodgy fire flakes too, Lex said. Doesn't mean I'm the reincarnation of Yang Chen. Well, I believe her, Lao Gu said with a proud, upturned chin. Judging by the other's expressions, his endorsement had the opposite effect. Okay, okay, Prima said. Everyone calm down. Take a breather. Let's consider this rationally for a minute, assuming she is. Kyoshi, think fast! She uncorked her water skin. Yeah, she uncorked her water skin with a sleight of hand. A pellet of liquid flew at Kyoshi's face. Kyoshi made an undignified squeal that should have disqualified her from holding any office whatsoever. She still couldn't bend any piece of earth smaller than a house, and the water aimed at her eye made her flinch like a prickle snake had. And the water aimed at her eyes made her flinch like a prickle snake had wandered into her sleeping bag. She threw her arms over her face. Spirits above, Lek whispered. Her cheeks burned in shame. Sure, she looked bad, but that bad? Kyoshi! Rangi said, breathless and thrilled. Kyoshi! The fan she'd been holding had come out of her belt as she clenched up in surprise. She was gripping it the wrong way, like a dagger. The tip of the weapon pointed to the blob of water hovering it in midair. Is that you? Rangi said to Karima. The stunned waterbender shook her head. Rangi dove at Kyoshi. The water fell on her back, splashed them both. She squeezed Kyoshi in a ferocious embrace. She did it! She did it! Which is the same thing Rangi's gonna say right now. You did it! She yelled. You bent another element! As Kyoshi struggled to breathe with an ecstatic firebender wrapped around her neck, she stared at the fan in her hand. Her mother's weapon had made the difference somehow, in both the element and the amount. She was sure of it. She looked up at the faces of Dao Fei. She looked up at the faces of the Dao Fei. Lao Gu had a cool, knowing expression, but the rest were shocked into submission. They'd been smuggling valuable cargo all the time. They'd been smuggling valuable cargo the whole time. They settled down in one of the innumerable abandoned quarries that supplied the middle and upper rings of Ba Sing Se. The marker of wealth for most Earth Kingdom citizens is whether a house was built with stone from the ground below it. The marker of wealth for most Earth Kingdom citizens was whether your house was built with stone from the ground below it. The farther the rock had to travel, the fancier it was. This quarry followed a seam of marble. The small canyon had been mined out in perfectly square blocks, leaving the edges protruding with right angles. They landed on a flat surface. Sorry, I'm just pulling off my fingers. Oh, excuse me. Okay. They landed on a flat surface of swirled gray and white, resembling tiny figures on a giant fountain basin. The regularity of the stone fractures laid on top of the natural rock formations made Kyoshi's vision blur. The first sign that something was off was Wong. He dismounted first and then reached up to help Kyoshi down. She frowned, assuming he was more likely to pick her pocket than act like a footman. She jumped off the other side of the saddle. Once they were on solid ground, the original members of the Flying Opera Company backed away from her. "We need a moment to confer," Karima said. Kyoshi and Rangi shared uncertain glances with each other, while the Daofei huddled on the far side of the marble cube, murmuring and whispering. Occasionally one of them would poke their head up like a singing groundhog and give Kyoshi a hard, assessing stare before returning to their debate. "If they turn on us," Kyoshi, if they turn on us, Rangi whispered sideways through a forced smile. "I want you to take Peng Peng and run. I'll buy you time to escape." Kyoshi found that scenario too distressing to think about. The sudden end of the game's discussion forced her backbone straighter. They filed back over to Kyoshi and Rangi, as grim and wary and determined as the first night they'd met. Kyoshi sucked in her breath through her teeth as Lex stepped forward. A mirror of that night they'd almost come to blows. "It's been our honor to have traveled with the Avatar," he said. We regret that we have to part ways." They bowed in unison, not using the Dao Fei salute, but with their hands formally at their sides. Kyoshi blinked. "Huh?" "It doesn't have to be right now, if that's not to your wishes," Karima said. "I suppose you might want the night to plan your next move and leave us in the morning." It was the politeness more than anything that threw her off. "Huh?" They seemed as confused as she was. "You're the Avatar," Wong said. "You can't stay with people like us. It'd be an offense to the spirits or something." "Not to mention too dangerous," Lex said. He ran his fingers over his palm where a splotchy red line remained, an artifact of Karima's imperfect healing. "We're still obligated to join the attack on Governor Tez. If we bail, Mach would find us eventually. When he does, well, being killed by a Shirshu would be kinder." "You'll be safer the farther away you are from us," Karima said. Kyoshi's mind reeled. Were they protecting her? She'd been so certain that the first people who discovered her identity would take her hostage or rat her out to Jianzhu. The Avatar was a tool. The Avatar was leverage. The master of all four elements lay somewhere between a bargaining chip to get what he wanted and a blunt force hammer to be swung at the many imperfections riddling the world. "No, you just thought that way because of how Jianzhu treated you." "Kyoshi, they have a point," Rangi said. "If you fall deeper into Mach's clutches, it will taint you forever." That was true. If she cared at all about being the Avatar, about someday holding the office and performing its duties as Yoon had already begun to do, then she had to part ways with the Flying Opera Company and their debts. Otherwise, the association with criminals would mark her indelibly. Otherwise the association with criminals would mark her indelibly. She'd be unclean. The history of avatars contained rebels, enemies of tyrants, those who stood alone against the armies of the four nations when necessary. But as far as Kyoshi knew, none None had been self-serving outlaws. Times had always proven her time had time had always proven her predecessors in the right and as shown them as champions of justice. Yoon had told her that most Dao Fei respected the Avatar. She looked at her parents' gang and saw their swagger gone, their cloak of daring confidence torn wide open. They laid themselves bare in the presence of the living bridge between mankind and spirits. She couldn't explain what was so familiar about this situation, nor why she felt so compelled. The Flying Opera Company was not a bunch of innocent victims like the hostages kidnapped by Tagaka, needing a higher power to reach down and change their futures. They should have been capable enough without her, just like Yoon. They reminded her of Yoon when he needed Kyoshi beside him on the iceberg. They were her friends, and they were in a bind. Kyoshi didn't turn her back on friends. She swallowed her own misgivings and made up her mind. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "I'm staying, and if I can help with the autumn bloom, I will. I haven't gotten my end of the bargain yet." The gang perked up. Logically, her promise should have made no difference to them. She'd been dead weight since the beginning, only useful because of Peng Peng. But they glanced at her with wonder in their shifting eyes, the same nervousness she knew she felt when Kelsang tracked her down for the first time and lifted her out of the dirt. "You'd sully yourself with me?" "Kyoshi," Rangi said, "think about this to its end. The Avatar can't be seen attacking the residents of an Earth Kingdom official. As far as the Abiders are concerned, I'm not the Avatar yet." Kyoshi said, "I took the oaths of this group. I won't abandon my sworn brothers and sisters." Her choice of words was not lost on them, or Rangi. The firebender was torn between being critical of Kyoshi's judgment and being proud that she brought personal honor to the issues. "You are not ready for anything resembling a real fight." Rangi said, "Currently, you are this group's biggest weakness. You're too valuable to lose, and you don't have the skills to defend yourself." "That's a little harsh," Lex said, of all people. "Hairpin's right," Karina said to Kyoshi. "Currently, we have until the next full moon to link up with Mock's forces for the assault. We can finally give you the training you were hoping for. That's what we promised you, wasn't it?" "It takes years for the Avatar to master all 4 elements," Rangi snapped. And that's with world-class teachers. I don't get the impression that any of you have a bending lineage to speak of." Karima grinned. "No, but I've always wanted to start one. I'm not going to pass up the chance to go down in history as the Avatar's water bending master." Kyoshi could practically hear Rangi's blood boil. Through her mother's side, her family belonged to an unbroken line of bending teachers who were considered some of the finest in the Fire Nation. They tutored members of the royal family. This plan required her to accept the shame they put off for so. This plan required her to accept the shame they put off for so long. The most important bender in the world would have to bow would have to bow to rabble. The Daofei watched the agony play out on Rangi's face. They were highly amused. Lighten up, like said. We'll be teaching Kyoshi to survive, not turning her into Yang Chen. Consider the raid on Te's practical exam. Whatever worshipfulness Kyoshi detected earlier had completely vanished from her attitude. Kyoshi uh yeah. Whatever worshipfulness Kyoshi detected earlier had completely vanished from their attitude. Kyoshi supposed she only had herself to blame, telling them to think of her as their sister instead of the Avatar. Speaking of Yang Chen, we're out of luck for airbending anyway, Karima added. Aang had like 8 months to do it. Yeah, he did. Yeah, but hold on just 1 second. All right. Speaking of Yang Chen, we're out of luck for airbending anyway. Karima added. Either the two of you accept a few improvisations, or Kyoshi remains the way she is. Weak, defenseless, a helpless, pitiable babe in the woods who can't. Kyoshi aimed beyond Karima's shoulders and pulled a massive cube of stone out of the far side of the canyon. It went crashing down the cliff face, its corners shearing off. A die cast by a spirit the size of a city, a city of a city. The boulder hit the canyon floor and fractured into an army of slabs and shards that teetered on their ends before falling over flat. Despite the noise, Karima didn't give the landslide a single glance. She stared at Kyoshi, impassive, unimpressed. This is exactly what I am talking about, she said. You need more than one trick in your bag. Kyoshi felt the evening wash by her like the wind passing through the branches of a tree. The gang was content to leave her be for now. They chatted excitedly to themselves around the fire. The Avatar had volunteered to stay by their side. Their every move forward carried a tinge of spiritual righteousness. Kyoshi gave it a day before the shine wore off. Rangi was in a mood all her own. After camp chores were finished, she hopped to a different stone cutout entirely to meditate. By herself, it was made pretty clear. They talked about the anguish of watching each other take risks, but neither of them had made any promises to stop. They couldn't. Not now. Kyoshi watched the stars fade in and out of the sky, screened and unveiled and turned by the clouds that were as invisible as the darkness as black-clad stagehands moving set of a play. Yeah. She can only bend big things. She can't do small. That is her weakness. Which is pretty funny. Alright. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still like... I still have my hand... Oh... I've been switching hands, but like... now ice water feels really nice on my hands. Alright. Yeah. Let me just read that thing over again. Kyoshi watched the stars fade in and out of the sky, screened and unveiled and turned by the clouds that were invisible in the darkness, hold on, let me say that again. Kyoshi watched the stars fade in and out of the sky, screened and unveiled in turn by the clouds that were as invisible in the darkness as black-clad stagehands moving the sets of a play. She was waiting for the others to fall asleep. She waited for a particular hour that belonged to neither this day nor the next, when the time felt jellied and thick. Kyoshi got up and moved to the next cubicle platform of the quarry, and then the next. Without dust-stepping, it was slow going. She had to chamber up and down the height changes. She didn't want to wake the others with noisy orthodox earthbending. The old man stood at the mouth of the marble seam with his back turned to her. Sometimes she wondered if Laogu wasn't a shared hallucination, or an imaginary friend exclusive to her. The others could have been humoring her, nodding and smiling every time she talked to a patch of empty space. I thought you would come to me in Fujian, he said. I suppose you had other priorities on your mind. Kyoshi bowed, knowing he could tell if she did. Apologies, Sifu. But in her thoughts, the unease ballooned. If he had a problem with Rangi, then... Laogu turned around. There was a smile on his eyes. You don't have to forsake love, he said. Killing's not some holy art form that requires worldly abstinence. If anything, that's lesson 2. She swallowed around the block in her throat. She'd been full of bluster the first night she went to see him in secret. But she'd been so used to false starts and stymied progress that continuing their conversation felt like foreign territory. More doubt seeped into her cracks. Lesson 2 should scare you to the bone, Lagu said. You can take a life. You can take a life before the sun comes up. Eat breakfast and go about your day. How many people might you pass on the street who are capable of such callousness? More than you think. Jianzu already was. Jianzu certainly was. He pulled her alone to safety, leaving Yoon behind in the clutches of that unholy spirit. That was the moment he'd marked his once prized people as having no further use. The way a dock worker might paint an X on a crate of cargo fouled by seawater. Total loss, not worth the recovery effort. And then there was what he'd done to Kelsey. Fancy yourself different? Lagu said, noticing her stillness. She could still feel Jianzu's hands gripping her. I won't know until I try, she said. The old man laughed. A single bark that pierced the night. I suppose you'll get the chance soon. In the heat of battle, you can excuse the act away well enough. Fling an arrow here, hack away with the sword there. You and your victim are just two of many, acting in self-preservation. Is that how you want to deal with your man? With chaos as your shroud? Do you want to shut your eyes, hurl an overwhelming amount of death in his direction, and hope he's disposed of when you open them? No, she said, remembering what she'd been robbed of, what she'd never get back because of Jianzu, brought a surge of conviction. I want to look him in the eye as I end him. Lagu reacted as if she'd made a saucy quip, pursing his lips in amusement. Well then, he said, in that case, during the raid... All right, little killer. Yep. All right then, he said. In that case, during the raid, you and I are going to split off from the others. We'll head farther into the palace than anyone else, and we're going to assassinate Governor Te. Wait, what? The certainty she had regarding Jianzu caused her to mentally stumble at the mention of another target. It was as if she were the late high fighter throwing an all-or-nothing punch at Rangi, who deftly turned her momentum against her. Why would we do that? For you. It's practice, Lagu said. For me, because it's because he's my man. Listen, Governor Te is brutally incompetent and corrupt. His people go hungry. He skims from the Earth King's taxes to enrich his own coffers. And in case you haven't noticed, he doesn't have a good policy for handling Dao Fei. Those aren't excuses to murder him. You're right. They're not excuses. There are ample justifications. Yeah. You're right. They're not excuses. They're ample justifications. I guarantee you that many citizens have suffered immeasurably from his greed and negligence, and many more will die if he is allowed to keep breathing. Lauga, Laugu spread his spread his hands wide as if to embrace the world. Te and his ilk Te and his ilk are parasites, leeching strength and vitality from the kingdom. Imagine yourself as the predator that keeps the land healthy by eliminating the sources of its weakness. It was said of Karuk that he was the greatest hunter that ever walked the four nations, but from what I know, he never made man his quarry. I am hoping you can be different. Hold on. I was not paying attention at all to what I was reading just then. Laugu spread his hands wide as if to embrace the world. Te and his ilk are parasites leeching strength and vitality from the kingdom. Imagine yourself as the predator that keeps the land healthy by eliminating the sources of its weakness. It was said of Karuk that he was the greatest hunter that ever walked the four nations, but from what I know, he never made man his quarry. I'm hoping you could be different. The idea of becoming a beast free of thought and culpability was supposed to help, but it made her shudder instead. What gives you the right to decide? She asked. Are you part of another brotherhood? Are there more people like you? Is someone paying you? He shook his head, dodging her questions. Doesn't everyone have the right to decide? He said. Isn't the Avatar a person like me? Someone who shapes the world with their choices? She was going to protest that no, the Avatar. She was going to protest that no, the Avatar had recognition of the spirits and four nations, but she found her tongue tied in the wake of his argument. He gripped his forearms behind his back and gazed across the canyon. I would declare the lowliest peasant is like the Avatar in this regard. All of our actions have an impact. Each decision we make ripples into the future, and we can alter our landscapes according to our needs. To keep her crops alive, a farmer uproots the weeds that nature has placed in her fields, does she not? People aren't weeds, Kyoshi said. It was the best she could manage. He turned to face her. I think it's a bit late to claim the moral high ground, given what your aims are. She flushed hot in her cheeks. Jianzu murdered two of my friends with his own hands, she spat. He doesn't deserve to get away with it. If you took him out for me, instead of targeting some random governor, I could reveal myself as the Avatar. I would be safe. Her resolve went wavering left and right. Not a minute ago, she was yowling, about doing the deed herself, feigning a hard soul, and now she was begging grandfather to make the bad man go away. Laogu smirked. No one in this world is random. Hold on. Actually, hold on just 1 second. Okay. Alright. Laoku smirked. No one in this world is random. I don't care to kill Jianzu. He's competent and he surrounds himself with competent people. I wish the Earth Kingdom had 100 Jianzus. We'd enter a golden age. And yet you're not trying to stop me from ending him. For this case, I won't intervene one way or the other. Besides, what kind of teacher would I be if I took my student's examination for her? A rich one, Kyoshi muttered. Tutors swapping identities with the children of wealthy families so they could pass the government tests needed for prestigious administrative jobs was commonplace practice across the Earth Kingdom. Pulling off the con paid very well. Laogu burst out laughing. Oh, I do like our little chats. Here's an assignment for you in the meantime. He jumped up to a higher level without the aid of bending, and without much effort at all. The leap was higher than Kyoshi's head. Many of Governor Tez's personal guard will die in Mock's raid, he said, disappearing past the edge of the stone, his voice already beginning to fade. Soldiers who are simply doing their jobs. His servants will be caught in the violence as well. What will you do then, Avatar? Kyoshi hopped in place, her eye poking above the surface of the cube he'd landed on, trying to catch one last glimpse. It was empty. Laogu was already gone. She slumped against the marble wall. The concept of collateral damage had lingered in the back of her mind, but Laogu had circled it in ink. Yeah, she slumped against the Yeah, Kyoshi hopped in place, her eye poking above the surface of the cube he'd landed on, trying to catch one last glimpse. It was empty. Laogu was already gone. She slumped against the marble wall. The concept of collateral damage had lingered in the back of her mind, but Laogu had circled it in ink, made it ache, the same way Rangi pointed out flaws in her horse stance. She had no idea how she was going to take part in this action, fulfill her promise to her newfound brotherhood, without getting her hands dirty. The promise had been so easy to make at the time. She stared miserably at the opposite side of the mined-out gulf. Sleep sleeping coming to her before a solution could. She woke up, sprawled flat on the hard marble surface. She must have drifted during the night. 4 figures loomed over her, making an arc of their upside-down faces. "Oh, look," Karima said. "Our precious little student is trying to get away and shirk her training." Wong stomped to the ground. The marble under Kyoshi tilted like a frying pan, dumping her to her feet. He proffered her fans, handles toward her. "I get you first," he rumbled. "A warm-up before you start bending." "Top Knot told us all about your little weakness," Lex said, backing away with a look of superiority on his face. "That you can't bend small pieces of earth." "I believe my words were completely and utterly lax precision," Rangi said, sniffing in contempt. She ignored Kyoshi's glare. "Don't worry," Lex said. "By the time we're done with you, you'll be able to bend the crud out of your own eye. Catch!" He whipped the stone that appeared in his hands at Kyoshi's face. Only the fact that Wong had her fans held out, right there, let her snatch one in time to protect herself. As the arm snapped open and she earth-bent through the weapon, the stone stopped in midair. It reversed course at full speed and struck Lek in the forehead. He doubled over. "Ow!" he screamed. "I was aiming above you!" "Wait, so you can bend small things?" Karima said, upset by the revelation. "Were you lying to us again? I have to tell you, I'm getting really fed up with the secrets." "I'm bleeding here! It's worse than Hujiang." "That's not how you open the fan," Wong roared indignantly. "You could have damaged the leaf." Amid the shouting, Rangi buried her face in her hands. She seemed to have a headache that rivaled Lex. Kyoshi agreed with her. The official training of the Avatar was off to a great start. And that is the end of that chapter. Alright. This will be the last chapter I read tonight. Or will it? It might or may not be. We'll see. Hold on just a second. Give me some time to I just needed some time with my fingers, that's all. Just like putting pressure on them really does like just irritate me more. And holding the book is like a lot of pressure. Give me just like a few minutes. Hold on just 1 second. Sorry. Bear with me for just a second. Or a couple minutes. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I just had to do something. Okay. But yes, we are on to the next chapter, and it is called Preparations. So, preparations. Sorry. I'm sorry. All right. All right. Actually, hold on. Sorry. If it's not one thing, it's another. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I think it's on. All right. So the next chapter is called Preparations. So we begin. Preparations. The journey to Ted's palace was a painful blur. Each moment spent on solid ground was devoted to training. The Delphi adopted their new roles. Each moment spent on solid ground was devoted to training. The Delphi adopted their new roles as her teachers with relish. Criminals liked their hierarchies, and the Flying Opera Company had just established a brand new one, with Kyoshi at the bottom. No! Wong shouted. It's fan open, fan closed. It's fan open, fan closed. High block, dainty steps backward, huge lunge forward, leg sweep. The fan is not a weapon. It's an extension of your arm. The man had never been much for words before, but when it came to fighting with the fan, he transformed into a tyrannical stage director, with the ego and perfectionism to match. I could remember the moves better if you didn't make me sing the full works of Yuan Shen while we do this. Okay, no. I could remember the moves better if you didn't make me sing the full works of Yuan Shen while we do this, Kyoshi said, huffing and puffing in the open field they landed in. The rest of the group sat in the shade of a persimmon tree overlooking an empty field, munching on the astringent fruit. Astringent? The astringent fruit. Munching on the astringent fruit and enjoying the breeze while Kyoshi toiled under the sun. Wang was highly offended. The singing is breath control practice. Power and voice come from both the center. Again, with emotional content this time. No matter how difficult practice got, she toughed it out. The rewards were bounding leaps in progress with her earthbending. With her fans in hand, she could narrow her focus to kick rocks at targets and and raise walls of stone like a normal earthbender, albeit one with a sloppy, informal technique. Still, after all those years of fearing she'd destroy the countryside with the smallest action of bending, using her mother's weapons was liberating. So it was effective. It felt like cheating. It is cheating, Lex said as they volleyed pebbles back and forth at each other in the mouth of a cave while the others set up camp. Sure, some airbenders amplify their power with weapons like hammers and maces, but what are you going to do if you don't have your fans? Ask for a rules change? How is someone going to steal my fans? Kyoshi said. The flight of the pebbles picked up speed, their arcs growing sharper. I always have them with me. It might not be theft, Lex said. You might voluntarily leave them behind. The first rule of smuggling. The first rule of smuggling is don't get caught with the goods. Your parents knew that. That's probably why they stashed the fans with you in that hick Abiter town. Kyoshi's temper flared. One, she had found herself longing for Yokia these days, much to her surprise. Not the people, but the harsh, wild landscape where the wooded mountains felt like met the sea and salt air. The interior Earth Kingdom often felt like a brown monotone, a flat expanse that changed little from one landing site to the next. She decided she didn't appreciate people looking down on the unique little part of where she'd met Kelsey. And two, she had never gotten over the resentment she felt toward Lek. Each moment her parents had spent with him instead of her. It didn't matter if he was simply a gang member to them. They found him useful, decided he had a purpose. Her? Not so much. She could have explained her feelings to him. Instead, she sliced at the flying pebbles with her fans, cracking them cleanly into hemispheres, and sent twice as many projectiles back at Lek. Can you do that? With or without a weapon? He yelped and threw himself on the floor. The shot blast of stone zinged into the cave wall above him, showering him in dust. Playtime had gotten too rough. I'm sorry, Kyoshi cried out, covering her mouth in horror with a spread fan. She could have put out his eye, or worse. He got up with a scowl on his face, but then he remembered something. His glower turned into a grin so smug it could have illuminated the rest of the cave. It's fine, he said, patting the dirt off his pants. Though I'll have to tell Rangi about your lapse in control. Whatever remorse Kyoshi felt vanished. You snot-nosed little... He bumped a finger patiently, like an enlightened guru. But that's Sifu snot-nosed to you. Kyoshi could firebend without her fans. That one bad attempt after their escape from Chameleon Bay was a distant memory. Since then, some kind of blockage had cleared. The flame felt straightforward, power that merely needed to be set free instead of prodded or manipulated like Earth. It made no sense to her how she had a critical weakness with her native element, but could produce fire decently for a beginner. The reason could have been that Rangi was a great teacher. Might be expected from the scion of great teachers. No, Rangi said. It's your emotional state. The little training area they built stood at the end of an isolated shepherd's path leading away from a small town in the valley below. Rengi faced her on a long, narrow beam of earth she'd ordered Kyoshi to raise from the ground. Balancing was Balancing on it was hard enough, but when they started to run through firebending forms and light spare and light, but then they started to run through firebending forms and light sparing. The linear exercise meant she'd ha- the linear exercise meant she'd need to concentrate on resisting and overcoming with positive jing instead of staying still or evading. Of all bending disciplines, fire is the most affected by inner turmoil, Rangi said, touching the flame downward at Kyoshi's front foot, forcing her to pull it back. The fact that it's coming easier to you now means you're feeling more relaxed and natural. Kyoshi snap-kicked her new leading leg. A crescent of fire sliced up, and Rangi had to consider how much pressure she wanted to apply. Isn't that a good thing? Kyoshi asked. No! Why would it be? You feel loose and breezy when you're surrounded by Dao Fei, about to risk your life with them in what's essentially an act of treason against the Earth Kingdom. Rangi spun out the balls of her feet, perfectly centered with more dance-like beauty than Kyoshi could have ever mustered. A horizontal skirt of flame billowed up from her waist, exactly at the height too awkward for Kyoshi to jump over or duck easily. Rangi hadn't accounted for her opponent's lack of complete shame. Kyoshi dropped to her belly like a worm, hugging the sides of the beam for stability, and let the wave of fire pass over her. She popped back to see Rangi looking at her with disapproval in her eyes, and it was about more than her lowly escape. You're firebending now, Rangi said. Dare I say, you might even be good at it. There's no reason to continue on this path. We could go to the sages and prove you're the Avatar. Kyoshi thought this matter had been settled, but apparently not. Which ones exactly? She said. Because the only sages I know are the names of Jianzu's guest lists. Should we try Liu Beifeng, the man who thinks of Jianzu like his own son? Or maybe someone at the court of Omashu. Omashu is practically his summer home. We could go to my mother, Rangi said, her voice barely audible. Kyoshi dropped her fighting stance. If she caught a fireball to the face, she deserved it. She'd essentially separated Rangi from her only family. It was a nagging guilt that Kyoshi had been able to ignore, solely because of her friend's strength. This was the first time Rangi had cracked along that plane. Do you really think she'd take our side over his? Kyoshi asked. She didn't mean for the question to be defiant. The friendship between the Avatar's companions in eras past was the stuff of legend. It was said that two of Yang Chen's close friends and bending teachers had died protecting her from her enemies. The prospect of Heiran choosing Jianzu over her daughter had to be considered. Rangi's face wilted further. I don't know, she said after a while. Her shoulders were heavy with dejection. I couldn't be certain. I guess if we can't trust my own mother, then we can't trust anyone. It did not feel good to win this argument. Kyoshi stepped along the beam carefully until she could put her arms around Rangi. I'm sorry, she said. I've taken so much from you, I don't know how to make it right. Ranky wiped her nose and pushed Kyoshi away. You can start by promising me you'll be a great avatar, a leader who's virtuous and just. The comment knocked Kyoshi off balance better than a kick to her knee. She couldn't reconcile her friend's righteous desires with the dark conclusions of Lagu. Entertaining the wisdom of an assassin was already a betrayal of Ranky's trust. What would happen if Kyoshi took the old man's test and passed? Ranky lined up a big attack to knock her off the beam, purposely exaggerating her own motions and openings to let her student counter hit her. But Kyoshi couldn't capitalize on them. She backed away until she ran out of space, forlornly waving her hands in a mockery of firebending, heat sputtering from her fingers. LoK intervened before she humiliated herself further. You two have been here all morning, Krema called out as she approached along the trail. It's my turn with Kyoshi. Buzz off! Rangi yelled. She took the fire she'd been winding in her hands and redirected it high above Krema's head. Since the night they'd spent in the marble quarry, Ranki's personal attitude toward Krema had gone steeply downhill. Kyoshi had no idea why. They were both talented benders who married intelligence with precision. She'd trust either of their judgment in a pinch. Krema didn't flinch from the fire blast. The waves of the heat flooded her hair and illuminated her sharp face in golden hues, an effect that was rather pretty. You're not setting a very good example for the baby Avatar, Top 9. Too much rage will stunt her growth. Stop calling me that! Rangi fumed. Maybe that was it. The constant teasing. Kyoshi wondered how Rangi put up with the nickname for so long. In the Fire Nation, hair was heavily linked with honor. She'd heard that sometimes the losers of an important Agni Kai would shave off parts of their head bald, lay patches of their scalp bare to symbolize an extra level of humility from their defeat. But the top knot was always sacred. It was never touched except in circumstances akin to death. Karima bowed in mockery. As you wish, my good hot woman. I'm coming back in 5 minutes. After she disappeared, Kyoshi put her hands on Rangi's shoulders. Did something happen between the two of you? Rangi responded with her new favorite way of avoiding the subject. Stance training, she said. We already did stance training. Lex said you went berserk in the cave. We're moving. Oh. Lex said you went berserk in the cave. We're moving to 2 a day. Horse. Now. Kyoshi groaned and pressed her feet together. She shuffled them to the sides, alternating between heels and toes until they were wider than her shoulders. She kept quiet as she lowered her waist, or else Rangi could have... She kept quiet as she lowered her waist, or else Rangi would make her hold a log or some other heavy object she could find lying around. Rengi circled her, looking for any weakness where she could strike. Do not move, she said, right before stepping carefully onto Kyoshi's bent knee. I hate you so much, Kyoshi yelled as Rengi draped her body weight over her shoulders. The exercise is to maintain composure in the face of distraction. Now maintain! Kyoshi put up with the asymmetrical agony until Rengi dropped back down to the ground. I don't want her teaching you waterbending, Rengi said as she moved threateningly. Let me say that again. Kyoshi put up with the asymmetrical agony until Rengi dropped back down to the ground. I don't want her teaching you waterbending, Rengi said as she moved threateningly into Kyoshi's blind spot. Why? Kyoshi felt Rengi leap onto her back, clinging to her like a rucksack. Ugh, why? There's a proper order to training the Avatar, Rengi said. The cycle of the seasons, earth, fire, air, water. It's no good to deviate from that pattern. You have to master the other elements before water. Again, why? There were only 4 airbending temples in the world. If she tried to snake out a master there, Jianzi would find her more easily than anywhere else. Because, Rengi snapped, they say bad things happen when an avatar tries to defy the natural order of bending. Oh, there's another typo in here. It says the word is Isle, like the next sentence is all fortune. Oh, never mind, it's not a typo. Oops. It's not a typo at all. Okay, never mind. I didn't find anything. Because, Rengi snapped. They say bad things happen when an avatar tries to let me drink some water. There we go. They say bad things happen when an avatar tries to defy the natural order of bending. Ill fortune befalls them. Kyoshi had never known Rengi to lean on superstition. Tradition, however, was another matter. She could tell that each time they ignored an established practice regarding the avatar, the knife twisted in Rengi's heart a little bit more. But Kyoshi owed it to her not to make a promise she couldn't keep. I'm going to use every weapon I have at my disposal, she said. That was the truth. Rengi let go of her. I know. I can't stop you from training with Karima. It's just that as soon as you start waterbending in earnest, our chance to do things the right way dies. Forever. It can't be brought back. Okay. Yep. That's all that's happening right now. Alright. Rengi let go of her. I know. I can't stop you from training with Karima. It's just that as soon as you start waterbending in earnest, our chance of do things right to do things the right way dies. Forever. It can't be brought back. Hearing it phrased that way made Kyoshi glummer than she'd expected. She stared at the ground in front of her. Rangi's feet came into view. "Come on," she said. "Cheer up. I didn't mean to send you into a spiral. I can't cheer up. I'm in horse stance. I like your focus. I like your focus," Rangi said. But see if you can withstand this." She slid between Kyoshi's arms and gave her a head-tilting, knee-buckling kiss, as powerful and deep as the ocean after a storm. Yes, baby! Ah! Yeah, that's exactly why she wants Kyoshi all to herself. Yes! Kyoshi's eyes went wide before they shut forever. She sank into heavenly darkness. Her backbone turned to liquid. "Maintain," Rangi murmured, her lips like a feather on Kyoshi's before she attacked again, with added ferocity this time. Kyoshi never wanted the torment to end. Rangi pressed into her like metal flowing on an anvil, scorching her where their skin met. Fingers ran through Kyoshi's hair, twisting and pulling to remind her how delightful. Fingers ran through Kyoshi's hair, twisting and pulling to remind her how delightfully. Sorry, I just heard like a bird or something outside. Twisting and pulling to remind her how delightfully at the airbender's mercy she was. After 100 years had passed, Rangi broke contact, gently and deliberately, breathing a wisp of steam down Kyoshi's neck, a parting gift of heat that drifted underneath her clothes. She leaned in for one last seductive whisper. "You still have 7 minutes left to go," Rangi said. Kyoshi kept her complaints to herself. It was a decent trade, all things considered. "Your water and air chakras are overflowing," Lao Gu said. He sounded like it was an embarrassment, as if Kyoshi had wandered outside her home without being fully dressed. She'd braved coming to him while the others were still awake, bedded down by the embers of the campfire. Rangi was probably staring at the sky, vigilant to her last moments of consciousness. Lao Gu lay on his side on the grass, his head propped upon his hand so he could watch a pair of fireflies circle each other, tracing erratic patterns through the air. Kyoshi had long since gathered that the man had very little need to ever look at her. "I don't know what chakras are," she said. What they are is neither open or closed. For the sake of predictability, I prefer working with people who have all 7 chakras open, or all 7 of them shut, or all seven of them closed. An accomplice with only some of their chakras unblocked can be easily swayed by their strongest, most gnawed up emotion. Let me say that again. An accomplice with only some of their chakras unblocked can be easily swayed by their strongest, most gnarled up emotion. Kyoshi assumed the term had something to do with energy movement within the body. Not much of a stretch, since controlling inner chi was the basis of all bending. Your feelings are your feelings of pleasure and love are butting up against a wall of grief, he said. And guilt. Grief I can work with, but guilt makes for a poor killer. Have you second thoughts of your man? Have you second? Have you second? Have you second thoughts about your man? No, she said. Never. Lao Gu rolled over to his other side. She waited, letting him examine her to see she wasn't bluffing. Jianzu was part of her blood anyway. Excuse me. Jianzu was part of her blood by now. He was the back of her hands. But this Tad person was not. I don't know if I can help you kill the governor, she said. Helping mock-free a prisoner is one thing, but an assassination in cold blood is another. Kyoshi wondered why she didn't reject Lagu immediately the other night. Speaking the action out loud made it seem ludicrous. Speaking the action out loud made it ludicrous. There's no reason for me to help you. The old man blew his nose on his sleeve. Have you ever heard of Guru Shokin? He said. He asked. Kyoshi shook her head. He was an ancient philosopher, a contemporary of Lakima's. Not as popular, though. He had a proverb. If you meet the spirit of enlightenment on the road, slay it. She wrinkled her brow. I can see why he's not popular. Yes, he was considered heretical by some, but wise by others. One interpretation of that particular saying is that you cannot be bound by petty concerns on your personal journey. You must walk with a singular purpose. The judgment of others, no matter how horrific or criminal they label, the judgment of others, no matter how horrific or criminal they label your actions, must hold no meaning to you. I can't do that, Kyoshi said. I care what she thinks of me. I don't know if I can handle disappointing her. Laogu knew whom Kyoshi was talking about. Your hesitation seems to be less about your own morals than hers. In fact, without your firebender tethering you to this world, you might feel no compunction at all. Perhaps that's why you feel guilt. You're only one step away from Guru Shokin's ideal, and it disturbs you. This was the sorry state of Kyoshi's avatarhood. Heartlessness, the new enlightenment. Murder the means to self-discovery. If she ever resurfaced in the legitimate world, she would create a stain as dark as Lone in the history books. Don't look so compromised, Lao Gu said. Yang Chen was a devoted reader of Shokin. Kyoshi glanced at him. She studied his opponents as well, he said. But I don't feel like giving you their philosophical. But I don't feel like giving you their philosophical arguments. It doesn't serve my purposes. She remembered the notes in her mother's journal about the rumored longevity of Tai Guai the immortal. Are you him? She said, are you Shokin? If her wild accusation was right, it could have made the man before her older than the four nations themselves. Lao Gu snorted and rolled on his back, closing his eyes. Of course not. He settled into sleep. I was always much better looking than that fool. And that is the end of that chapter. And I could read more, but I think I'm gonna stop there. I feel like I've read a decent amount. I don't know why, but yeah. But like, when I think of Lao Gu, I think of the combination of him and the, in Spirited Away, that one spirit that was like very dirty, and then he came out and his head was just like an old man. That's what I think of whenever I think of Lao Gu. Which is weird. Alright. Well, yes, that is the end of my, my reading for tonight. No, like a combination of Guru Pathik and the one spirit that came into the into the hotel, and he was really dirty, and after after he was like done getting cleaned, he was like, oh, he was like a dragon type person, but he had like the face of like an old man, and he was like very rich. Yeah, that's what I think of. A combination of the Guru Pathik and this guy. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, but okay. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening. Boy.